Today is 19 January 2024. We are kind of having a pretty hot today, today in Rio de Janeiro, and we kind of set things until Sunday. We will have a script made probably during the week or the weekend. Quite hot, I'd say. So we will have something like this. The last thing we had was this situation here, and was quite clear that the entire global regular architecture has failure inside the hiring process, nepotism, and contracts with criminal purpose and as motivation, leading to the misuse of power as creation of law by lobby or the activism the judicial power. Indeed, make the judge be the owner of the power, not the state. And we are charging the states. So if you have a cognitive bias here, it's the opportunity to the state point the judges that are make this mistake. In some areas, this opportunity got denied, didn't accept it, then also the plea bargain with the clemency. So they became a unique thing legally charged. I'm doing a conversation quite clear, simple as minimalism, because I like the idea, especially on industry, and accept on my rights and discredit, fully charged. We will have a review. The difference with no difference has no difference, affect everything at the same way. The distribution of no difference in fields limited that has at the limit the difference between different things. Indeed, we will have the approach, but to exist as different, you need a fake record to cover this common element that is becoming bigger and bigger until surround the A and B as a unique thing, C. It's the mobilization of crime or systemic mobilization as criminal activity. You need fake records, you need gaps as logical gaps, as observed that the personal account between debit and credit on your company or whatever, the supply and demand and microeconomy and markets and traders and supply chain, and of course the entire conjuncture like Brazil and others with investment, saving and liquidity money cubes representing the macroeconomy without the strict presentation about what the economy is doing or is all about. The same thing observed as pattern at the show business, running white-collar crime, bondage, dominance, submission, mutilations and murders, and also piracy and other things, violation of intellectual asset. In my opinion, this is a criminal organization that is taking little by little the space of regular show business, broadcasting bad values all around. It's cultural destruction, especially by the stimulation of dependence. Elements like drug, prostitution, and others, which are front doors really large at the organized crime. And in general, you have this gap in your life, something large, and become larger by the bad self-determination you did until a moment that will broke. And then you will be qualified as a criminal. And in general, the criminal system is like the drug use. The user as power misuser or drug user variable can be hurt by this. And the self-aggression leads to self-destruction as pathway as suicide. We observed this at the show business in many times. Some case like Chet Baker that has no solution, but has an element common nowadays, which was a debit with the drug law, that the case that he probably, had a solution to do not have the debit claimed anymore, but also not pay. The Chet Baker got dead or something, that she jumped from a window like that. People that stab in the back himself or herself. But sometimes the justice accept this kind of absurd things. And the similarity traced, this is the fake record, the distortion inside the area is very comfortable, acting, working, receiving regular salary paid, generally by abusive payments and values every month, all year, 12 months a year, during many years, systematically made, no excuse to be, no excuse to continue, but kept even by silence as position assumed. You assumed your intention as criminal intention. By the premise number one, you didn't respect, because no organization would like to have criminals inside, even as investor. And also the second premise as legal system and constitution, that but no guarantees at all to the criminal organization. But if you are running the purpose to switch all things, especially by your own interest or group, of course that you will do a lot of complaints against this effort. And we require to cut, I would say, the supply, make a really crack down on areas with huge dependence as junky elements at the investment system like Brazil and others, that in general they have no self-determination like any other variable: drug dependence and corruption, being criminals at the institution. In general, they are kind of not criminal, not authorities, but corrupting both. And by power misuse, engulfing the space of difference little by little until you have all things very homogeneous as a big crap. And we fight hard to do not be in a big crap. By this I'm a single creditor. Then we will observe that the situation as purpose go and also affect the antitrust justice and the International Criminal Court by the silence as risk be surrounded by criminal activity. They have legitimacy to act as institution. If the chairs on it has no dignity to act, unfortunately, in they continue, they are stealing the legitimacy of the institution and decreasing the capacity as reply or as responsiveness. The aggression suffered was made first, like this research that suffer and complain, making a reply. But if you do not act, the silence qualified as criminal is also a cowardice. We will have that the difference between things in general couldn't be noticed by difference in the past, observing all things, especially at your ground, your environment. As architecture, the sage couldn't read the difference of a domestic air flight if it was guided by a maniac, and especially if it was hired by the internal domestic failure to obtain advantage, for instance, by heritage, or property with no owner, or real estate markets, and having, for instance, a crash at Twin Towers. But nowadays you can have the difference by a single element that changes the pattern of mankind, at least who is using a binary language like COBOL or whatever. The America is safe again, at least my sites and my contribution, even hurted by this. Then we will observe that the difference will be noticed, even if not explicit, in a very specific moment, like Republicans and Democrats of Brazil and USA. But since they had an exclusive choice as Pareto condition, which goes as self-determination, and they kind of try diffusification and to avoid this or have conflict of interest. There are no reason to be out of the eyes as the judicial power, not considering the judges as variable, but the judicial power as the state. We will check that, for instance, can be the position, keep the war, do not keep the war, set the impeachment, do not set the impeachment, keep the impeachment, do not keep the impeachment, has the prerogative as ex-president to do not be sent to jail, do not have the prerogative. Sustain the prerogative until the end of the case, do not sustain until the end of the case. We observe that the difference indeed will be noticed by the motivation, and the common field as motivation will be the negative one that can be on both, and also the positive one as confirming the standard as position in each one of them. This kind of thing, having a commercial thing, will allow me to have as having a structure and observe that the negative one as corrupted structure will be the same pattern as corruption or corrosive thing inside my mobile, my instrument, the communication service interacting like this, take little by little the space until have an entire clandestine mobilization by the power misuse with corrupted values on it. And in general, we can deny this as a parallel architecture. The main thing we will have today is the parallel architecture at the power in the United States was observed on France by Montesquieu, which was the government trending to tyranny, the Congress to demagogy, and the justice to an oligarchy. We're observing this and living this not only in USA, but in Europe, in other areas. In Brazil is kind of become a rule of thunder. And of course that will have the Brazil as explanation at this point as an underdeveloped period of the thing, which we will observe that the comparative measurement Brazil in USA indeed will be like this. We have the Brazil, we have the USA, we have the concurrent element as fail and the concurrent element as fail different in a very specific moment with root cause, have the attraction of both until such a big thing, and Brazil decided to keep this like this, and this was the position of Brazil, be surrounded of by the criminal activity. America, we told many times, a dozen times, if you fix it yourself first, you will have the legitimacy to strike hard first. And America, we pushed this, and of course that you got threatened, hurt some way, but it's still ongoing. To have the criminal activity and observe this space that will be used to advantage inside the criminal scam, and since you advanced on it, you can have the plea bargain as an instrument, and in general in USA you can have the conviction by this. In Brazil we changed the plea bargain, and this space here, it was something used to achieve this kind of situation, and will remain until, for instance, 2028. Brazil got down, it's surrounded by criminal purpose. America is at the struggle to do not be surrounded and have the prevalence and confirm the American values by the American people observing the preamble, the blast of freedom. It's enough reason to sustain the interest and purpose against any kind of no legitimate, no excuse act by not legitimated use of power, which is power misuse. Indeed, this is resistance, and it's part of domestic tranquility, because get along with criminal organization inside the institution is cowardice. We observed this in the very beginning of the video. The choice is to America. Continue or not, this is the wild data Tasha European says. Have a great weekend.